Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back to another video here on Cluiche with me, Seamus Brady, your host. And for this one, I'm joined for the first time on the show by Kevin Kennedy of the GA Stats app. Kevin, looking forward to this. What did you make of obviously first week of the league actions of 2025?
Seamus, just here. Listen, thanks very much for inviting me on. Always good to get on and talk about a bit of golf. Yeah, look, it's week one. Nothing's shown, nothing's lost, nothing's gained. It's week one. That's all it is. The FRC will probably sit down sometime during the week, maybe and just have a Zoom call or so and just get a review on it. But there's nothing lost or gained. People saying the rules don't work, they're completely flawed or wrong. People saying, oh, they're brilliant, they're a complete revelation. They're wrong. It's somewhere in between. We just don't know. We don't know yet. It'll be another, and not next week, another few weeks to go on. But like, has the game really changed that much? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched enough of them with different rules, or the same rules, just different club games, challenge games. I don't think they've changed that much. Players just have to get used to them, and we all have to just get used to them, including referees as well.
Certainly, and then of course the people doing out the pitch markings have to get used to them. I'm sure you've seen that shot of the 240-meter marks out in Healy Park. So I mean that's an inter-county pitch. Imagine on a junior B pitch on a rainy Tuesday night. I would say, mark my words, by the time it hits August, September, there'll be a club championship match in like junior or something where someone will claim that they were outside the 40-meter arc and the ref won't have a breeze, and it will be all hell breaking loose in situations like that. But yeah, we're going to get into it because we have a lot to get through, guys. We have a couple of people watching. If you are new here, as you said, the ticker running across the bottom there. Get involved in the comments, throw in any questions that you have, and let us know what your highlights of the weekend were. And we're going to dive right into it here. So starting off, we're going to give a shout out to the intermediate club final and the junior club final. This one, I mean, the story behind it, obviously the tragic passing of Roisin Crime, obviously God rest her, and Conor Loftus steps up to take the penalty in the last, and it turned out to be the last score of the game to win Crossmolina the intermediate club championship. And then obviously that clip at the end on the official GA's Instagram page, you could see the emotion in the Crossmolina lads. This is a momentous day for the parish of Crossmolina, for the club. I mean, you can't really put it into words how much this will mean to them, to Conor Loftus, and then, you know, the bit of class at the end to dedicate it to Roisin. I mean, it's right up there in terms of significance for our parish.
Yeah, like for the community, everything down there is our thoughts and prayers obviously go out to them. It couldn't have been, it could have been a better ending. I think there's a bit of controversy just around about was it a penalty or not a penalty, and you can certainly see from a voluntary perspective as well. It maybe should have been a free out. I mean, looking at it, I thought it was a charge as opposed to being dragged down. But is there? I don't think Ballinderry are going to come out and start crying saying, "Oh, we'll challenge that." I think they're aware that there's a much bigger thing here than just
Yeah.
simply winning a game, and that's all it is. Remember the Glen boys whenever they lost their All Ireland, they weren't pushing to get an All Ireland. It was more on point on principle, and Ballinderry will come back from this. I think they'll be more fitting on to say that we did lose a game. There's something else is looking down on top of Conor Loftus that day, and for him to step up and hit that penalty, what Cedric Kahuna like,
Yeah.
even I think it was only a point down. He could have put it over the bar, went the extra time, and tried to come back that way. But yeah, fair play to him for giving it a right rattle and emotional scenes as it is. Obviously the tragic passing routine.
Yeah, no, I mean, he showed some serious guts, some serious bravery to step up and take that penalty. And yeah, just massive hats off to him. Massive congratulations to Crossmolina. What an achievement. And as I said, to dedicate it to Roisin was a lovely touch, and may she rest in peace again. The All Ireland Junior football final as well took place on the Saturday on Caharua, beat Nave Park by 9 points to 8. This one was a low scoring arm wrestle. Like throughout the entire game, both teams were very evenly matched, particularly around the middle of the pitch. I personally thought, like, my heart was on Caharua because I'm spending a good bit of time out there these days. But Nave Park, I just looked at Kylan McColgan and I was just like, I feel like he might make the difference. And like his point to equalise going down the home stretch was a brilliant score, like from such a tight angle. But then up steps the 18-year-old Maestro, and on Caharua are the All Ireland Junior champions. I mean, what a story for him.
Yeah, look, I think it's a story for both clubs. You know, junior football maybe gets a wee bit of a bad rap at times. You know that it's sort of down there, and it's um not as glamorous as what you would get maybe at the county. But it's not too long ago that David Clifford and Paddy Clifford was playing, you know, in a junior football championship as well. So there is still good players down at that level. You see 18-year-olds stepping up and winning the game from the end. I suppose the funny thing is, Neil Potty, I don't think they'd want to. I could be wrong. I don't think they maybe won a championship game up until this year, and now they have Donegal Championship and Ulster Championship, and they got within a score of winning the All Ireland. I suppose the funny thing is that they're a team based up in Donegal. They were able to travel down to Dublin. Donegal senior team weren't able to travel, obviously, but obviously they live in different parts of Donegal.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting one. Maybe it's because the trains were taken away. I mean, seen that clip from back in the day. My good friend Ryan Carrick, he made I think a clip like that where it was like a fly on the wall in the Irish Rail meetings and all this, and it was like, oh, trains running from Dublin to Mayo to Cork, and then when he said Donegal, he goes, "Fuck them."
Well, he says the motorway stops at Monaghan.
Yeah. Yeah, as well, like, I mean, what a week for Fionn O'Keneal. I mean, as I was mentioning there, he is the 18-year-old maestro. I mean, what a start to his senior career with the club. I mean, especially in a rural area like that where numbers wouldn't be as strong as they would be in the more urbanized areas. Like, you need young lads to step up to the plate, and I mean, he was sensational. Like, especially in the first half when Naomh Pádraig were on top in terms of possession, he hit a couple of crucial scores that kept them in the game. And then going down the home stretch for such a young man to take on responsibility like that, I mean, he has a bright future ahead of him. He reminds me like your classic kind of jinky corner forward type. Like, he really, really does have like very Leighton Glynn-esque, like the way he can just dip and bob and weave and all that Jason Sherlock type energy about him. But he was brilliant.
And we're going to see that type of player return, you know, whenever under these new rules for this year anyway, and see what happens after that. Where the space is going to be there for those, let's say, more smaller, slighter
Yeah.
corner forwards like Jason Sherlock. I mean, Jason Sherlock had to play the game probably within the last 4 or 5 years. He maybe wasn't turned into the player he was. So bright future ahead of the young lads. Especially you mentioned there, Seamus, about being in a rural area. How many times do we see young lads maybe struggle to get into senior teams, or maybe the lure of the bright lights up in the city or Australia or Dubai or wherever it is. You just hope it doesn't come too soon. But what about it to introduce yourself in the senior football? I'm sure the county boy will be definitely have a look coming down to see, you know, where this lad's going to end up. Because
Yeah.
Croke Park's an intimidating place for, you know, senior footballers who've been there and done that, for an 18-year-old to step up in the day.
But that's it. So many people talk about how, like, I remember hearing as well about a lot of players saying that Richie Hogan himself said it, that like once you're in Croke Park for the first time, a lot of times you drop the ball short on your first shot at the goal because the goal appears like it's a lot closer, it's a lot further away. We have a couple of comments in here. Sean O'Malley says, I like how it was moving at a faster pace. And personally, I felt some similarities with the hurling in some of the games with the amount of momentum. I think definitely good examples of the rules working is the Roscommon Down game, which we'll get to. Obviously, that was brilliant. Mm-hmm. Johnny Barrett says, I miss Matthew Hurley. He was salt and chips with Seamus Brady. Oh, thank you very much. Make a good combination. We have here as well. We'll run through now the Alliance Football League Division 1 Round 1 recap. And obviously on the Saturday, a lot of eyes turned to Dublin and Mayo. I mean, in terms of rivalry in the last decade, Dublin and Mayo definitely has to be right up there. 117 to 115, it finished in Croke Park. A good game. There were definitely still spells. I mean, when we're talking about the rules and everything, there were definitely still spells where both teams hung on to the ball for ages and did nothing with it. There was a period around, I think it was the 52nd minute, where Mayo hung on to the ball for at least 2 minutes and the shot at the end dropped short. And you could just feel, what was the point of all that? So still some echoes of past problems, but a good game of football. Dublin off the mark in the post Fenton, McCarthy, and now, as it turns out, post Mannion, McCaffrey part 2. But somehow Stephen Cluxton's still there. Era.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of uncertainties about Dublin, and there has been over the last number of weeks, because nothing. We've all seen the WhatsApp groups of who's still to come back or who's missing, and it was quite an experienced team that was put out last night. Obviously last night you still have some, like Brian Hard been there, done that several occasions. Sean Bueller, again, man of the match performance put in there. But it's interesting to see at this time of year how certain teams are going to try and adapt and change. And I think that Dublin, to be fair, they got the win by trying something that they're not going to try throughout the league or throughout the latter stage of the championship. And that is around about pushing their keeper up at times and having them as a decoy run, because let's face it, Stephen Cluxton's not going to be able to do that. He's a man in his early 40s now. He hasn't been doing that role for a long, long time. He hasn't been getting actively involved in any sort of attacking threat. So it's really interesting to see that Desi Farrell is giving these different things a go in proper matches. Now, there's still, to me, a wee bit of a almost like an exhibition about it. I think both teams are aware that not everything would be won and lost in Croke Park last night. But at the same time, there was still some enjoyable stuff there too. It's interesting to see how teams are trying to adopt. And I clipped something earlier on, just it actually shows you that keeper coming in. But Galway's defensive system is what everybody's trying to do now. They mightn't realise it, but Galway have done this defensive system for a wee while. It takes minutes to tell you what it is, weeks to train what it is, months to try it and get it right, and then you'll still make mistakes in it. But you can see that Mayo were trying to play with a sweeper in behind as well as defending that arc, and it was only whenever there was a bit of confusion, the keeper came up, didn't touch the ball, but just run past people. It broke that arc down. A gap appeared and a point went over. And I suppose to put a soccer analogy to it, you hear Brendan Rodgers talking about changing the point of attack. You have to do that at times, but the big thing is now, and I think the more data we get, the more we'll see this happening. Last year, there was definitely a theme of the longer you had the ball, the less likely you are to score. And why is
Yeah.
that? Because teams are able to drop back, get bodies into a structure of some sort, force you out of your traditional shooting zones and make it a wee bit harder for you. So there is going to be a shift here whereby teams are going to catch on to that. I'm speaking to Andy McEntee earlier on about it as well. It's not hold on, wait. It is go. So long as the ball goes dead, and there's a good example actually probably with Meath, so long as the ball goes dead, we can set up and press. And I think teams are going to start to catch on to that. If you're pressing a long kick out of 50-50 ball, because of the way the ball's coming, the trajectory of it, you can get up, break it down in front of you, and it's actually more winnable in the defending team's half, rather than the ones who are at the ball. So I think teams will catch on to it, but I think Desi Farrell, to be fair to him, is trying different things in the league and not behind closed doors. But I would say Dublin will be in a different shape come the latter stage of the league, ready to get into the Leinster Championship. But yeah, a lot of learning last night too as well. Mayo and themselves, 115 is not a bad return for Mayo. 115 is not a bad return for Mayo at all. It was good to see, they're used to the keeper as well coming up. Colin Murray, I think he got at least one score on the board last night. Probably limited in terms of, again, someone from a left footer there who can stick it over from the left hand side. That's still their weakness in terms of this. But I know that there is good young players in Mayo, and hopefully over the next couple of weeks, McStale give them as a run out in the league as well. See how it goes. I was thinking both teams would have went down in or been fighting for relegation anyway. But I think getting a score in the door for Dublin is welcome, because if you're going to stay up, you need to win all your home games.
Oh, big time. Yeah, and again, I'm fully aware Dublin played home games in Croker before anybody throws that into the comments. Yeah, I would look at that and be like, that game was one that Dublin needed to win, because I remember a couple of years ago when we did go down and Armagh beat us in Croke Park, and I just remember it was kind of a bit of a glass shattering defeat in terms of all of a sudden we look at the list and it's Kerry away next. Probably won't win that one. And all of a sudden it's bang, 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 and we're staring relegation in the face. So we've got to win on the board, which means, in my opinion, I think we're going to be fine this year. I would look at Mayo a little bit worryingly, and I think I tipped Mayo to finish 7th, Derry to finish 8th. And after this weekend, I'm more confident in those predictions. Sean O'Malley, thank you so much. Sean O'Malley says, I think the game needs a shot clock to fully improve the game. That was what I said before the rules, and I was saying this to you, Kevin, off air. I've played basketball and I played Gaelic football, and even when you watch the sports, in basketball you get the ball, you have to attack pretty much straight away. And in Gaelic football, I think I wouldn't suggest something crazy like a shot clock of 1 minute, but maybe a shot clock of 2 minutes, or even maybe 2.5 minutes. Because if you go back to a game say a game that everybody says is a classic, 2006 Dublin Mayo, where it was helter skelter and it was one of the most, entertaining games that you couldn't take your eye off. I'd be surprised if either team in the first 15 minutes hung onto the ball for more than 90 seconds at any stage. So the point is like, eventually over time, if the shot clock was there, you'd see more managers think we're not going to go back and forward every time. So you'd see them start to leave players further up the pitch. I think that would have been more easily implemented. But I agree with what you said. We have to back the new rules that we have here. But the shot clock would be one that I would still consider if we still see instances like, for example, Dublin and Mayo on the weekend holding onto the ball for long periods of time. That still hasn't gone away with the new rules.
No, and shows I don't think it will. Like if we had it on chatting last year, I'm not in favour of the new rules, bar the dissent rule, which I think is a culture shift. I do think that's the most important rule. But if you look at the other rules, I'm not in favour. I actually am not in favour of any of the rules coming in because I think it covers for bad coaching. I think it really does cover for bad, naive coaching. However, we are where we are. Jim Gavin and the FRC have been tasked with this job, and they've went around to try and change the game. And for me, they've targeted things that it covers up bad coaching. Like now that you have to get 40 meters on, like I done a bit of work with Kerry over the last couple of years. We done a bit of stats on it, and if you press a kick out or press any ball in the opposing half, you're 2.7 times more likely to get a turnover. 2.7 times more likely to get a score than dropping off. And even last year, I watched Galway against Donegal, and at half time, Galway had dropped off their kick out, Donegal's kick outs completely, and Donegal had 10 scores out of 12 kick outs. That's not going to be an option for them. I'm watching it going, why are they doing that? No, but I think if we put in things like a stop clock from my coaching head on me, I'm like, oh fuck. Now they know what I would do with the team. You know what? Galway last year, their phases of play in the All Ireland final were roughly between 90 seconds to 2 minutes, most of them. There's that resulted in a wait. Anything less than that, about 1 minute 10 was a score. Armagh's scores came after about 44 seconds of phases of play. It was their average phase of play. So they're a lot quicker. And the idea again is get it up and just put the ball dead. We'll talk about Meath. I think Meath are on a trajectory. Glen, whenever they won the All Ireland last year, had a conversion rate of less than 50%, but they were hitting high shots. And you're talking a shot every time they had the ball. The phase of play wasn't last a minute. It was right, go bang, get it up, give it a go. If it goes wide, at least we'll press up and push them on attack. I just think changing the rules so much covers up for bad coaching. And as a coach, I don't like it. But we are where we are. Roma didn't see, which is the president when I engage on Twitter, like, oh, you're all for these. And like, I'm actually not, but I am. Like, we're here. Might as well just give it a go and see how we get on.
And that's it. I'd be positive about it, and I'd be like, look, at least they're doing something. And the reality is you could have sold me anything after watching the Dublin Roscommon game in 2023. I remember that one. I remember just being like, oh my god! Like I watched the Roscommon goalkeeper stand still in the middle of Croke Park and do a solo, and I was like, how has the game got to this? Like, and then you seen the thing with the Clare player in the club championship doing the keepy uppies in the middle of the pitch. Like, I was like, if it's got to here, I'll take a.
Well, we talk about stats and numbers and all. If you look at how much we did, how well we done it, who's better off? So what if you had the ball like Roscommon for 5 or 6 minutes? You got one bloody point. Dublin go up a score in 30 seconds. And you're like, oh, maybe and it actually takes more out of you whenever you have the ball.
Yeah.
Because you're moving about and you're trying to think, and Dublin weren't chasing them. So yeah, there's poor coaching. I wouldn't be the biggest fan of Davy Burke and his mindset around it, but I think it's all very much off the cup. But all the data that I have and is relevant is pointing you towards a shot clock, let's call it that, but more of an internal one. Like put your team on. It's not about getting from your 21 up to there 45 and 50 seconds. It's about getting the shot off within a minute.
Mm-hmm.
That type of stuff.
Oh no, I agree. I'd be looking at probably 2 minutes, but then it's more implementable. I don't know if that's even a word.
It's easier to change the rules than it is to change people, and that's what it falls down to. The issue isn't with the rules because you can have brilliant games and you can have shit games. And even today, with the rules changes, you can have brilliant games, you'll still have crap games. It's always been that way. But even Jim McGuinness was hurt. You think about Jim McGuinness, Mickey Hart, Jim Gavin. They all take a different approach to it, and they've won because of that. They mightn't have been successful for long periods of time, but they've been innovative in their approach. Too many coaches just go, I've seen Dublin do that, so I'm going to do that. Like the four,
Yeah,
if you remember last year, Kerry, I know I'm rambling on here, but if you remember last year, Kerry played against Dublin and Croke Park, and it was really the first time, because of the way the cameras are set up, you've seen a bank of 4, 4, and 3. And Dublin
yeah.
done this very, very aggressive press, at least it looked like that. It was only about 25-30% effective. But then you go out the next week, the club game, everybody in their granny's done it because Dublin done it. You know,
It's unreal, yeah.
there's no evidence for it.
Yeah, no, I do agree, and like, again, we'll get more into rules as we go along. But personally, I think it's a good reflection on, like, as long as there's kind of possession in the game. Like, I'll fully admit the first I seen of it was, in terms of sucking the life out of the game, was Dublin doing it against Mayo in the 2017 final, where Dean Rock kicked a free and then Dublin just didn't give them the ball back for the last 2 minutes, and then it became into the game. The Louth and Roscommon games against Dublin, you could tell that it was a very set tactic by Roscommon and Louth to just hang on to the ball and literally try run the clock down, staying as close as possible to Dublin, and then maybe make a break for it in the last 10 minutes or something. Yeah, we'll move on to Galway Armagh, 112 to 9 points, and this looks like a bang average score from a club championship. So when you're talking about the highest, which we'll get to in the Roscommon down game, which was a cracker, 112 to 9 points. The conditions were tough in Pearse Stadium. I seen Colin Parkinson had a tweet up where he was saying the pitch didn't look in great nick either. I looked at it on RT, the pitch didn't look in the greatest nick, so it wouldn't have been the easiest conditions for free-flowing Gaelic football. Galway beat Armagh. I'm not. Is it revenge? Probably not. Like Armagh, I don't think Armagh will care too much with their All Ireland around their neck. But yeah, Galway off to a good start in the league, which again was necessary. But then after the game, McGeaney dropped in as well that Rian O'Neill won't be in the Armagh panel for a good chunk of time anyway. What did you make of that? And then this game?
Well, I think I think Rian was off the panel and then back in it again. He's probably back off it. He maybe just needs a bit of time. I think it's hard, without putting words into anybody's mouth. We're all humans. We're all people at the end of the day. If someone needs a time away to for himself, I think I'm not paraphrase Geezer, but he basically said he's taking a few months to himself. We don't know what that means. A fella could be dealing with stuff outside of football, and especially a player like Rian O'Neill, when you're in the spotlight, you're in the spotlight simply because of how sheer his class. But look, did he play an awful lot last year in the league? I'm not sure. Towards he became more of a bit part player, and then came for championship. I've no doubt Rian O'Neill will be back come the summer. I think he'll be back in there. And we as fans of Gaelic football are better off whenever Rian O'Neill plays because he's one of the best in the game. Like at this moment in time, he's brilliant.
I think the one thing I'd be looking at from an Armagh perspective when it comes to these rules is I think Rian O'Neill would be perfect for these rules in terms of the 40-metre arc. I'd say he'd be able to belt them over. So if I'm McGeaney, I'm wanting to get as much practice into him as I possibly can with these new rules. So him saying that he won't be around for the league is slightly concerning, I think, in terms of he might not be as sharp as he could potentially be, because he could be a real match winner, even more so than he already is with the 40-metre arc. He could kick 2 points just for fun. But again, it reminds me a lot of kind of the Austin Gleeson situation when Austin Gleeson stepped out with a Waterford penalty. It's just like, because every time you go on the pitch, someone's man marking you, someone is shadowing you the whole game. A very similar reason you could argue as to why Brian Fenton needed some time away. That like every single game he's played since he was probably 14 years old, he's been shadowed, man marked. He's expected to be the biggest voice in the dressing room, the main man in the dressing room. So if McGeaney wants to give him some time away as well, and if he needs some time away after they've won an All-Ireland, he's more than entitled to it. But for this game, look, Galway got the job done. I don't think there's that much that we can take from this game, to be honest, because, I mean, it's, again, first round of the league. There's just not that much that I feel I can take. But I can take something from this game. Tyrone 2-13, Derry 1-9. I was 100% confident that Derry are going down, and more so now after this game, because for me, the fact that they hired Paddy Tally so late so late. Like, it wasn't like they got the job, like they sacked Mickey Hart and a week later had Tally in the door. They had no idea who they wanted to hire for months. I would argue that maybe they did, but circumstances didn't allow that to happen. And now I think that they were left with like, okay, who do we hire? Tally's all right, which tells me that there's not a plan for Tally to slot into. I don't know. I can see them having a tough year. They have brilliant players, but I can see them having a tough year.
I think they will, but that's not because they are lacking quality, as you mentioned. They do have some brilliant players. Conor Glasgow was absolutely fantastic. Shane McGuigan remains an absolute belter. Lorcan Murray, they're littered with talent throughout, particularly maybe their full forward line and half back line, I would say. Even Brendan Rodgers playing centre half back, I was a bit thrown by. But then he gets up and he hits the first 2-pointer of the year on that. But I think the thing is, like you watch so many teams. Armagh tried it in the first half and got good reward on, but it fell apart for them. Teams have to learn how to play different football now. They do have, and Derry done really well last year, but Derry always had a limited panel. They only had 18 players they could play. Like, there's a guy up in there, Shea Downey. I don't know where Seamus Downey or Henry Downey. So he plays club football here in Antrim. And I remember doing a podcast last year predicting, sort of what was going on in Antrim. I couldn't tell you what type of player he is because I haven't seen enough of him. He doesn't get on for Derry. And even that was a case where Mickey Hart came in as well. He might get a wee couple of minutes here and there. But Derry don't have the depth that other counties have. Like Armagh have a training panel there of close to 50, I would say, now at this stage. You look at Kildare, extending out their training panel as well. You have development squads in there. Paddy's only in, and Paddy has to. It's like all this stuff whenever you form any new team. It's storming. No one really knows where they are. Then you start to form a relationship and you normalize that after. So there's unease and stuff into it. But that's the same with any team. Any team that's going on. Paddy doesn't know these players yet. Them players don't know Paddy. He's trying to coach something to him. I even see it last night actually. If you watch Conor Glass, remember Conor Glass playing against Dublin 2 years ago up in Owen Beg, and he was going from he was the one sweeping, but he was making runs from sort of left half back in the corner back over again. I bet you backside Paddy doesn't want him doing that, but Conor found it hard not to do it. He was sort of running, and actually for the Nell Morgan kick over the top, he sort of stops as if he doesn't know what he's doing because a lot of things need to be unlearned. Like whenever Rory Gallagher took these boys training, I remember or took these team. I remember going up to Owen Beg Mechanic Cup, and Jesus, you needed paracetamol by the time Rory Gallagher was finished because he was a mouthpiece like, but it was on the sideline shooting, engage, and that team needed him to drive him on. They needed to it. They do lack depth in and around about there. But they still have like Cam McFall. They still have good players that come back. The only thing concerning is Tyrone won it pretty handy in the end, and they still have your Canavans, your Joe Goose, and you look at some of the boys who stood up this year for Ariel that come back. Tyrone on the right trajectory. Molecule Work will have Emma's Flan come Ulster Championship team.
They certainly will. I mean, I remember just in this game between Tyrone and Derry, just the contrast between this time last year when they played the same fixture in Celtic Park. I mean, because I remember when Glass got the goal where he kind of looped it in over Morgan's head, and I remember that felt like a real kind of low moment for Tyrone. I remember at the time it was like, God, Derry are having it all their own way here. And I remember at the time saying with Mickey Hart that I didn't think they'd give him that much string if things started to go wrong. And by God, I mean, I've never seen a team be so good and then a few months later be so ropey. Like, I've never seen that. I was sold on them after the Dublin game, after the league final. And there was a moment, I know that I'm reading into this a little bit much, but remember the Dublin Derry game in the league final. That was an unbelievable game. And there was a healthy bit of shit talk going on between both teams. But then when Derry won the penalty shootout, they didn't go mad. Like, they weren't like, yeah, like, we won the league. I got a vibe off them that day of like, that they were like, no, like, we're not going mad about this one. We're coming for the real one. And I thought it was I thought it was a good moment, and I was sold on them then because I was like, wow, they really mean business. Like, they've beaten Dublin in a league final. It was an epic league final, and they're not losing the plot because they have their eyes on the big prize. Like, we've seen.
Cameron Paul turns around and says to me, I think it's Conor Glass who just sort of nudges him and says, "Let's go over and shake your hand." It's only a league, and that's what it
Yeah.
is. Look, I don't think Derry's performances last year were as bad as the sort of media and everything made out that it was completely came off the wagon. If anything, they 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 done Jim McGinnis's job for him, because from a bit of looking at the stats of it, they were all over. They had 31 shots against Donegal in that game. The amount of them dropped short and didn't come up or whatever it might be. They were naive for the kickouts, but none of the kickouts were one clean. All the kickouts were on a break or Derry brought them down or so. So it wasn't as if Donegal were fantastic on a long kickout. And as the season went on, actually, Donegal are awful on a long kickout. Donegal are
Yeah.
really bad on a long kickout. Against Louth, they only retained 3 out of 10 long kickouts. But what had happened up then, I love Tommy Rooney after the game. He was interviewing Jim McGinn. He says, Jesus, what did they say? He who asks the question controls the answer. And Tommy Rooney says, Jesus, you've definitely done your work on the long kick out there, because he's got 3 goals. And Jim McGinn goes, I think so. He laughs it off. And see, for the rest of the year, no team pressed up on the Donegal, and it got Donegal to an All-Ireland semi-final.
Yeah. Oh no, like I remember at the time, because I just remember watching that game, and it definitely, this isn't related to the point of the Tyrone Derry game, but it's related to the Donegal Derry game. I remember watching it, being in disbelief, because I read Jim's book, and you could see in the book, and you could see in this documentary, how much he was obsessed with beating Mickey Hart's Tyrone. And he would have done so much study on the way the Mickey Hart's Tyrone team played, set up, everything like that. And when Mickey got the Derry job and Jim's Donegal had them, you got the sense that maybe this is the perfect foil for this Derry team that seems to be on a rocket ship to the stars. But I remember Lynch got caught in the All-Ireland semi-final against Galway in 22 when Comer scored. And I remember thinking, that's a potential weakness for Donegal to exploit. But then the one thing that happened was O'Boyle got the first goal. And I remember thinking, if you're Mickey Hart, okay, be honest with yourself. Jim watches everything you do. Jim probably knew what Mickey Hart had for breakfast that morning. Like, he watches everything you do. He knows your tactics. And if you get the first one, you need to be you needed at the time to be honest with yourself and go, that's not a mistake. Jim has a plan to, really expose Lynch. And then they just let it happen again and again and again. So
But
I agree with you. They kind of did his job for him that day. There's no doubt they have the footballers, though, to get it together. They have the players. They just need the right horses to go along with.
And it was, they beat Mayo last year. They came within, I think, 2 scores of beating Galway, who eventually went on to win the Ireland. They were completely annihilated against Armagh. But I remember speaking with Aaron off Gaelic Fans TV and saying to him that day, and he was like, you wouldn't do that. I was like, why doesn't he just play a B team? The game is not, Westmeath is the one you have to win.
Yeah.
Mickey Hart's nothing to lose here by going and playing a B team. And yes, it wouldn't look great. The optics and all were crap, but it ended up it was worse off for them, because come Westmeath, they changed their whole approach. They went for more of a high conversion rate on low shots, as opposed to trying to get 50% of 30 shots. 50% of 30 shots gets you 15 scores. I think against Donegal, correct me if I'm wrong, they hit 0-17, somewhere about that.
Yeah.
0-17 should be winning new games.
Donegal just ramped them with goals, like.
Even things now, like let's talk about, you look at Galway. Galway are brilliant at it. They're masters at it, but it's taken a long time to do it. Galway play zonal with a bit of man marking, but most of all, they communicate effectively. They'll play a sweeper and a sweeper rotate. If you think about one of the goals there where Lynch is trying to run back and the camera zooms out, Christy McCaig he's more or less just holding on to Oisin Gallons if you're not going anywhere. Instead of saying, here, Lynch, you pick him up and I'll drop back onto the line. And particularly now, coming into the new rules, teams are going to have to start things like that. It's no longer man-to-man. It's no longer zonal. It's being able to chop and change and adapt as the game evolves. And that, I say game evolve, that might be within 15 seconds. You may have to say, here, you pick, and you trust if someone's telling you pick him up, I drop back. You don't question it, you do it, you drop back. And I think that ultimately by the end of this year, if these rules come in, whenever teams are properly coached and start to get used to it, we're going to see far better defensive structures, defensive setups, and defending going on. Because it takes that wee bit of approach to do it. You'll know it from the basketball.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like the basketball, like half the time, you think that you'd be running. Like you definitely do a lot of that, but the amount of time that you spend just studying like a photo and being like, right, you're number 5, you're going to run around here, do this. And definitely Gaelic football has a lot of that now. Kerry versus Donegal was postponed, so that's Division 1, Round 1 recap. To moving on then to Division 2. I'm going to throw the 4 in here together. So obviously the main result was Roscommon beating Down 321 to 120 in a brilliant game. Cork beat Meath 219 to 21 points in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Monaghan had a very impressive win over Cavan 222 to 20 points. And Louth beat Westmeath 117 to 18 points at Cusack Park. In Mullingar, out of these 4 results, Kevin, which is the main one that jumps out at you?
Look, I think Down done very well. I especially for getting 2 pointers against Roscommon, but Roscommon got over the line there, and at the end it was probably pretty easy enough for them. But Meath, to me, there's a lot of question marks over Meath. A lot of question marks over, particularly in the back of the last couple of years, in terms of O'Rourke's approach. But I was looking at Matthew Hurley's stats last night, and to hit 40 shots in a game is fantastic. 40% of 50, or sorry, 50% of 40 shots is 20 scores. That should be enough to be put, and that's on a bad day. Whereas you look at Cork, I think Cork had 25 shots with an 80% conversion. Can Cork do that every single game? No, and I think that probably limits them in terms of their peak. They make Cork are very accurate whenever they get going, but there's some days where they have a bad day. And if you're hitting 40 shots, you can afford to have a bad day.
Yeah.
If you get up 55%, Cork, if they were meet again tomorrow, Cork probably wouldn't hit that high conversion. So I think Meath are on a journey. And I think that football in itself needs a good Meath team. Leinster need a good Meath, and Kildare and Louth teams.
Oh, yeah.
And Division 2 will be tough this year because you're not just playing for promotion and to stop you getting relegated, you're also playing for potentially a place in Sam Maguire as well. But I think going away to Meath, it'll be alright.
Yeah, no, I think Meath are on the border personally. Like, I definitely think I said at the start of the season with the filter, I put them 7th, but it's because I think they might lose to Cavan, or they might lose games that would prove costly. Look, Robbie Brennan's a very, very good manager, and like with Kilmacud, he was excellent. Meath have been in a consistent status over the last 10-12 years of 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Like they've gotten slowly further and further away from Dublin, and like last year they came up to take a hide and go home. Like there was never an element of Meath might win this game. And when O'Rourke was doing the post-match interviews, he didn't even seem like he thought at any stage that they could beat Dublin. And when you watch then Louth come up in the Leinster final with a game plan of how to win, was it entertaining? No, but I respected the hell out of that. They came up with a game plan of like, this is how we're going to beat Dublin. And you could see at the final whistle, like when Mulroy like fell on the floor and was exhausted and genuinely like heartbroken. You're like, wow, like they really thought they really came up with a game plan of how they were going to win. And that's a Louth team that had very limited success at under 20 and at minor level versus a Meath team that had tons of it. So I absolutely believe there's potential there with Meath, and especially Robbie Brennan, to get the best out of them. And I would love Meath to be back. I think the GAA needs Meath. It needs Kildare. It needs one of them. It needs one of them to beat Dublin.
Costello on the TV every week, so that if they can get up in the Division 1 or something, you might see more of them. Some football.
Oh, he's a cracking player. And the GAA, realistically, especially Leinster, needs one of them to beat Dublin. Like, because I remember being 6 years old and going to Croke Park to watch Dublin play Meath and Dublin play Laois, and there was 82,300 people there for a Leinster final because there was a real expectation that Dublin might lose, as Dublin were underdogs. And the way that Dublin played, like it was Russian roulette. It was like a fighter that just swings for a knockout every time. It was either they're going or you're going, and the games were absolute box office. Sean says here, Down have some serious shooters. They could be a big threat with the new rules. And then I don't really know how I'm going to go about even trying to say that name, but he says it looks like Antrim can benefit, especially with the 2 pointers after the rumours about Corrigan's 40-metre arc. Kevin, I'd obviously throw that one to you, being an Antrim man.
I think somebody put it up on Twitter. I didn't notice it. I didn't think it was bad. They will need something because they don't have the ability to shoot from 2 points, I think. But thankfully now really clear. But no, it looked alright to me. A mate of mine does the lane out of that pitch. It's the club I want to play for, Corrigan. It's the home of St. John's. No, I thought it was okay. I'm not going to swing the boat too much on it. But yeah, Down, I know people in Down were concerned about Down having 2 point shooters. Pat Haverin will hit their frees at great accuracy. Danny McGill's a fantastic
Yeah,
footballer. I love Danny McGill. Or Merchant. They have a lot of talent in there, but they could end up in a position a bit like Armagh were 2 years ago whenever they're up in Division One. They could
yeah.
be getting close to division. They could be getting close to teams, but they're getting over the line. But like Conor Lovery, I was disappointed in their second half. I was. I think they only got was it 7 or 8 scores in the second half. I was disappointed in that. I think they will need to do better. But the conditions down there weren't as easy as it looked on TV either. I don't believe.
Yeah, well, like definitely, Roscommon was a good litmus test in terms of how you could compete against Division One teams because Roscommon have been doing it now for the best part of a decade. They're in a weird position and have been for the last 2 years because Roscommon are like they're too good for Division Two, but they can't seem to put together 3 years in a row in Division One. And I fully expect Roscommon to bounce straight back up top of the table and champions. Johnny Barrett says, I think the new rules will suit Kerry the most, especially Sean O'Shea and David Clifford back Kerry for Sam. I think that could be a absolutely terrifying duo. I think the Canavan brothers as well could absolutely rip people up with these rules. My thing looking at the Division 2 round 1, first Roscommon and Down, both teams impressed me hugely. And Roscommon, their shooters, I mean, Diarmuid Murtagh especially, like very, very accurate what the 2 point is. Cork beating Meath at home is massive because I thought that could have been maybe the result that could have put Cork in the relegation zone. But Cork probably will find a way to survive. Cavan and Monaghan, bit of a statement because obviously Cavan beat them in the championship last season. It was a Cavan team without Paddy Lynch, but it's crazy how just one result all of a sudden Cavan now need a win because Division 2 is so cutthroat that the same team that probably has the potential to get promoted might get relegated. And then as for the final results, Westmeath and Louth, I've tipped Louth to actually make history this year. I really, really do think that they can maybe, like with a big win over Monaghan or something, they might be able to do it. Westmeath, I think it will be a tough year, and losing at home to Louth in round 1 kind of confirms why I think that John Heslin gone, Ronan O'Toole gone for the year, Desi Dolan stepped away. Could be difficult.
Yeah, but it hit naughty 18. I agree with you. I thought Westmeath just come straight back down. I think was a I know that Willie put it up the other day that Dermot took over and there was 4 boys left, but that wasn't strictly true because there was boys that are already not committed to the following, the next year. But Naughty 18's a good return. Like Naughty 18's a good score. Louth are a decent team as well. Louth will be trying to push for promotion. Westmeath could get results against Cavan and Monaghan because listening to the Cavan Monaghan, it wasn't a great game. I think Cavan were pretty poor. They lacking a bit of balance in there. So there will be upsets in that. There will be upsets in that. But for Lakes of Monaghan, who I think are over reliant upon Rory Pagan, having that just one system of play, the knock up 222 is a big score for them. And Cavan,
Yeah.
without probably Lynch saying 20 is a big score for them too. So it's really a bit uneasy to find out where teams are at the minute. So every point that you get is going to be vital.
Very, very true. I think of Monaghan sending out that they mean business. They want to go back up to Division 1. Wrapping up then Division 3's round 1. Obviously, we had Kildare with a very impressive win over Fermanagh, 224 to 112. I think that's a big win for Kildare because Fermanagh I would have tipped as being a potential banana skin for them. Fermanagh solid enough, especially for Division 3. And Kildare just battered them. Offaly as well, very impressive win over Sligo in O'Connor Park. Antrim as well, beating Clare 1-9 to 1-6. You were at this game. And then Leitrim and Laois obviously was postponed. But 3 big wins for Kildare, for Offaly, and for Antrim. I think for Kildare, if they had lost to Fermanagh, I think all in the news would have been like, oh, it's all going bad for Kildare. Sligo, there's a lot of hype around, but Offaly, that's a big, big win to start off their year. And then Antrim beating Clare as well, a team in Clare that a lot of people tipped as potential promotion candidates, myself included. For Antrim to start off with a win over them is very impressive.
Yeah, look, it's supposed just for Blair Flanagan what he's doing and trying to unite, the county and Kildare. I was delighted for even the result, just a statement win for them. I think Fermanagh might be in trouble. I did see they could go out next week and beat Antrim, but I did see a photograph of them. The first thing struck me was that they look heavy. The boys are who don't look like they're at the level of county football, but I wouldn't know them by name. They might be French players or whatever might be going on there. The Offaly one, I think one thing you can be guaranteed with Mickey Hart is he sets standards, and maybe with the success of Offaly they've had under the last couple of years, maybe that's what's needed. Someone with that experience to come in. You know, it's not just about standards on the pitch. The standards off the pitch. The first thing he done whenever he was going in with Loud was to put a canteen in so he get something to eat after. You know, it's just those wee different things that make a big difference. But as for Antrim, delighted. It wasn't a good game, you know, horrendous game, but the conditions were absolutely horrible. Both teams had to play into it. Antrim did handle it a bit better. I thought Ryan Murray, who was missing all of last year, he started. Ryan Murray was fantastic corner forward, but his work rate around about the half back line, particularly in the second half, where they were trying to come back in and pivot round, he was involved in everything. I don't think it was one turnover. Ryan Murray wasn't involved. I thought it was a great game. Connor Stewart round about midfield is just a classy footballer. Paddy McBride boys, he got worked their socks off. Having said that, I was so disappointed in Clare's performance. They looked lost of ideas. They looked like they were living in fear of shooting. I hear that their top six, you know, their starting six should have been ranked like 210. Would have been a low score for them. So they just didn't look like they had any options for it. But I'm delighted for Antrim because I think we will struggle this year. I think that bring it down to a dogfight. Those boys showed their character and stepped up. They are strong around about the. I seen the team last night. I put a story up on Instagram about it. They were big enough to press the Clare kickout, and Clare they just changed their keeper recently. Their kickout is a weakness, and Antrim done really well on it. And I was saying that to Andy McEntee after, I was sitting down with them for 10 minutes after the chat with them after. Them boys fought for each other today. They know they're in a relegation fight this year. It's as simple as that. They know where they are, and they'll take each game as it comes. But after a start like that, I don't think Fermanagh is a big challenge for them. I think they'll put it up to Fermanagh. But the only thing again, come back the last couple of years, Van is consistency. But today was a statement for them. Brilliant to see.
Absolutely, yeah. And with a local rivalry as well, like I mean, we're against Fermanagh, they're not going to have any fear towards them, and that's again to throw it back to Leinster versus is I've always admired that about Ulster. Anytime that an Ulster team seems to win anything, it's like the rest of the teams just can't wait to get their hands on them, and that's why I'd be stunned if Armagh win Ulster this year because it's a proven track record of, you know, even the Golden Tyrone teams would come in. Like the championship that they won in 2008, they didn't win Ulster. Like they got knocked out by Down. Like there's been plenty of examples of teams that have been successful who then get booted out in Ulster because everybody else ups their game. Whereas in the 2010s, especially the teams that you would look to stand up to Dublin just rolled over for them in a lot of big games. But I'm delighted to see Kildare, you know, making that statement and getting out of the traps with a win. Then the Division 4 round 1 week recap, would you believe? Longford 212, Limerick 115. I think that's the most consequential result. There's two teams you'd expect to be going for promotion. Another draw here with Carlow and Tipperary 213 to 116, and Wexford beating London 224 to 26. Wexford, probably I'll go with them, dark horses for promotion this year. I'd expect Limerick and Wicklow probably to go straight back up, but having seen Limerick drop points away to Longford, could this be finally the year that Wexford go up? Because they've been inconsistent as hell over the last few years.
I have Wexford as my team to go up. I think they'll finish top. I think they'll actually win that. I watched their game, recorded game against Antrim, and they were impressive. You know, I think I have them as to finish first and Wicklow to finish second on that within Division 4. But yeah, I think if Wexford like that, truth be told, going away to London changed manager. They were all looking, you know, still a backroom team. Not only a couple of weeks ago, so things aren't right in London. To go over there and get a big win is massive, but we know that London has proved a bit troublesome for people in the past or teams in the past. Dublin, I would probably say, London, I would say, are a massive transition where they're going to struggle this year. But Wexford, go away there, away from home. I think they have 4 home games now as well. You win your home games, you're up into that challenging position. It's harder to get the scores on the board away.
Yeah, the honest truth is with Wexford is just over the last few years, they've been impossible to tell what version of them is going to turn up. Like they're the type of team that will beat Longford and Limerick and Wicklow and then lose to London Carlow. I know it's just beat London, but you get the point. Liam White here says, was at the Offaly game and amazingly scored 117 without needing the 2-point marker. I mean, that's a big statement too, because if you've seen a big scoreline like that, you would assume maybe a few 2-pointers in there. But 117, the old school way, very impressive from Offaly out the gate. Johnny Barrett says Kerry Galway All-Ireland Final 2025. Interesting. And I'm assuming, Johnny, that you think Galway are going to lose said final, which means another final. Are Galway becoming the new Mayo at the end of 2025, according to Johnny? Maybe. Also, no hate. I really hope Mayo win one, by the way. I genuinely do. We're going to move on then to recapping the hurling. So just divisions 1A and B. The 1A round 1 recap. We had Cork demolishing Wexford 221 to 12 points in Wexford Park. Big statement from the Rebels. Kilkenny beating Clare in a rematch of the All-Ireland semi-final, 23 points to 21 in Cusack Park. And then Tipperary annihilating Galway in Pearse Stadium on Micheál Donoghue's big return, 325 to 216 in Pearse Stadium. I mean, all three of those results, you see, it's very difficult to tell with the hurling league who is going hammer and tongs. Last year, I remember that a lot of the discussion was who was going to actually give it their all in the league. But Cork, Kilkenny and Tip definitely setting their stalls out with a good win to kick it off.
Yeah, and Kilkenny, I think, need those types of win for later on in the year, because they sort of petter through Leinster, and then they're shocked by the teams that are coming out of Munster. And it's been that way for a wee while now, since Limerick's dominance anyway. And then Clare last year, again, I think for Kilkenny to develop, because they're not getting as good a challenge in Leinster Championship, they need to be almost going hammer and tongue through the league, because that's whenever you're meeting the top teams like your Limericks, your Clares, your Corks, teams who they need to be tried against. But Wexford is it was a massive drumming, and with the Galway one as well. I know people are a bit concerned in Galway, a bit different maybe the Sheffield and even last year. I thought that might have been the issue, but it was the issue. There's other issues going on within Galway that they need to fix, and fix pretty quickly.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think definitely moving away from Sheffield was the right move. I think that definitely had ran its course, that experiment. But Tip, I think it's a big year for Tip, and it's a good start, because like last year, the way they got annihilated by Cork in Semple Stadium was probably the lowest day I've ever seen for Tipperary hurling. There was a real sense before the game that they were going to get battered. And then the Cork fans travelled as if they were expecting Cork to batter them. And then they did. I couldn't believe how flat
probably
they
why
were.
Liam Cahill is coming out and saying, I read an article on today saying, we need Tipperary supporters to be brave here. Don't be waiting until the All-Ireland final to come out and support us. Get out today, get out next week, get out every week and start getting behind the team. And it's a bit like you hear about Celtic Park and things and being the extra man. You get the fans on your side early. It doesn't matter how bad it gets during some of the games, but if fans aren't there to support you, it just gets a very, very lonely place.
Oh yeah, big time, because especially if you take a beating when there's nobody there to support you. I mean, it's very vulnerable for players to walk away, and especially the Division 4 teams. You go into any article where it's like new players in every camp, the further down you go to Division 4, it's like Leitrim have a new team every year. Waterford, especially in football, have a new team every year. It's very, very difficult to build something, and that's why I was really impressed with the way that Paul Shanky was moving. Here, Liam White says, I'd be very worried for Wexford for this season without trying to be overreactive. I think losing some big players like Dermot O'Keefe has obviously walked away. Liam McGovern has obviously walked away as well. They were very reliant last year on Lee Chin and Rory O'Connor, very, very reliant on them. And when Rory got sent off against Clare, that was it. Wrap it up. But yeah, Division 1A I think will be interesting. I don't know how much we can take from the games. I think I'll have to wait until round 2, round 3, and I think if I see then what the kind of trends are, I think it's too early to jump the gun, but it's definitely a very, very flat start for Wexford and Galway especially. For Clare, I wouldn't be too concerned. It's, you lost by 2 points to Kilkenny. There's no shame in that. But for Wexford and for Galway, the problem is they just never got going. And you would wonder why, especially when so many lads are looking to stick their hand up for places. Running through the rest of the hurling then. So obviously in 1B, we had Offaly Offaly 119, Carlow 116 in O'Connor Park. We had Dublin 125, Antrim 14 points in Croke Park, and Westmeath and Laois was postponed. Now, as an Antrim man as well, Davy Fitz, obviously, first game at the helm with Antrim. It's not an ideal start. For Dublin, it's a great start under Neil O'Callaghan, because I think if you're looking down the list, Waterford, Antrim, Offaly to an extent, kind of similar to Antrim, jump out as the big tests.
Yeah.
So it's a great start for Dublin to get a big win at home to Antrim.
Yeah, massive start for Dublin. As an Antrim, man, I'd be concerned. I just think that Davy Fitz, look, I suppose he's probably saying the right stuff, but they're shy a few players due to injuries and stuff like that. But I think for any manager to come in, they have to look at the strengths of the team and try and exploit the strengths of the team, try and bring him to the fore. Instead, Davies come in with a model he thinks works and has tried to shape Antrim around about that. I think he done the same with Waterford, and the boys actually turned around and said, "Listen, it's not working for us. So you have to put horses for courses." Will he stick with this throughout? I mean, like he says, we probably go down or be more bad days and good, but I just think that's negative talk right from the get go. When I come in and say, like, we're going to give it a good overall, I know he's given plenty of commitment to come up here, and he stays every other weekend, but I'm not convinced that he is the right man for Antrim. I would much rather have Mike McShane.
I'd be kind of on the similar train, man, to be honest. I think Davy is almost like, when Waterford brought in Davy, to me it looked like Waterford were looking to cash in on the team that they had. Like, Davy could be like the little bit of X factor that could get you over the line to win an All-Ireland with the crop that you have. Like, Waterford had a team that was more than good enough to get to an All-Ireland final in the late 2000s. They brought in Davy. They got over the line to an All-Ireland final in 2008, albeit it was a terrible day for them. But then he comes into Clare again, gives them that extra boost. They get over the line. They win an All-Ireland in 2013. Wexford had a brilliant crop. He jumps in. They win a Leinster title. I think it made sense when Waterford hired him, because Waterford in 2022 were picked by everybody to be Limerick's direct competitor for Munster and for the All-Ireland. And I remember when Limerick beat Waterford in Munster that year, everybody was saying, round one to Limerick type. Like, these two are going to meet each other at least 3 times this year. And they just fell flat. So everybody still thought they have the players. Let's bring in Davy and, get the adrenaline and maybe we can go on a run. It just didn't work. And there was rumours about him coming in as Dublin manager. And at the time I was like, I can kind of see how it would work, but because he would bring a lot of attention to the Dublin hurling team, and he does have a proven track record at getting success. But I'd be more on the side of Dublin over the last few years have been so predictable in terms of how our hurling championship is going to go. We usually win the games we're supposed to win, get annihilated by Kilkenny, finish third, and then lose to whoever comes out of Munster. And that's been the way we've gone. So I'm in a position now where if O'Callaghan coming in means we have to take a step back to take 2 or 3 steps forward, I'm more than happy to do that, because, if you do what you always do, you get what you always get. And I'm kind of like, right, we're not breaking through the glass ceiling of winning a Leinster title or getting to an All-Ireland semi-final. And we need to build a long-term 4 or 5 year project around, in my opinion, the Nafina lads that are there. The Donald Burkes, the Curry brothers, the AJ Murphys. We need to put them in our spine and go for this. I wouldn't be in favour of Brian Ryan playing for Dublin, because I think that opens the door to just all sorts of transfers. But Liam says here, he says, we had our chances against Carlow to finish it off, but considering the injuries we have as we speak, I'm not as worried with a draw. Certainly, when you look at certain players like Adam Screeney and the like they could have made the difference. And then the name that I don't know how to say says to VH, I could predict an Antrim hurling relegation in League and Leinster. I wouldn't be that negative about it, but Leinster will be a shark tank with Offaly added in.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, Antrim's not... In terms of Antrim or Blinker, and I said this last week as well, we're kind of screwed and where we're going. Our teams will fight for each other, and I am awfully critical of Antrim, but it's not so much of the team, it's what's going on in the background to it. Like, a Belfast team hasn't won a senior hurling championship, I think, in 22, 23 years. I think we're also the last team, maybe 2002, to win it. And then from that, you're left with basically Dunloy, Lockgate, and Cushendall. Antrim have 3 strong top senior hurling teams. Like some silly teams like St John's or Ross, it might push them one year, push them to a draw. St John's should have beat them. It should have been Cushion Dolan in this year's championship, but they didn't ultimately. And we are picking up the pieces, and it's not getting any better. Like even Craigan, who won Division 2 last year in Antrim, moved up to Division 1. They didn't play hurling. They just focused on the football. Because look, the reward's not there for it. I would be concerned about Antrim where they're going.
Yeah, I think Antrim are in a similar spot to Dublin in terms of I think they need a long-term project. And my point is I just haven't seen Davy do a long-term project. I've seen him get the best out of what is currently available to that panel. And I think if Davy had come in as Dublin manager, I think we would have got to a Leinster final, lost to whoever came out of Munster, because we can't seem to beat Kilkenny right now.
Andrew got chinned last year by Derry in the under-20, and that was a shock. That was a shock. Derry might be doing great things underage, but Andrew getting beat by the under-20 championship. And there was a lot of talk around about the coaches and stuff that were involved in that team. Those coaches are now up taking a senior team. That's the sort of level. Davy might be in there, but he hasn't brought the rafts of players in. The funny thing is that I'm going to claim on the boy who brought Tipperary and Limerick to All-Ireland glory is a Belfast lad. Like.
Yeah, big time. Sean O'Malley says, I remember Seamus saying on his Dublin preview live about a lot of Dublin lads choose football over hurling after 2011 when the hurlers were starting to improve under Daly. Yeah, that was a sliding doors moment for hurling, in my opinion, in Dublin, because basically before 2011, Dublin hadn't won the All-Ireland in 16 years in football, and we were making serious strides in hurling. We won the league in 2011 and hammered Kilkenny, who had just done the 4 in a row 2 years earlier, and we were unbelievable that day. And then we won the Leinster in 2013. And at that time, like Conall Keaney left the footballers to go to the hurlers. Shane Ryan left the footballers to go to the hurlers. And there was a sense that it was kind of equal. You had just as much chance to win with the hurlers as you did with the footballers. And then all of a sudden, the door falls down in 2011. The footballers win, which obviously was amazing. I'm not complaining before it sounds like that. But then all the lads that came through, like Kieran Kilkenny, Cormac Costello, Emmett O'Keneela, Eric Lowndes, who were sensational at hurling. Con O'Callaghan is probably the main one, that were sensational at hurling, all picked football. And even players like Tomas Brady, who was Dublin's starting fullback in hurling and didn't start for the footballers, still chose football because you're more or less guaranteed an All-Ireland medal if you go with the footballers. And you can't blame them for choosing, but it's had collateral damage on the hurlers because we've missed out on some of the best hurlers that our county has produced over the last decade. Sean says, if the footballers regress the same way with a lot of the golden generation retiring, can you see any dual players switching? That's a really, really good question. I'd love to see Con play hurling for Dublin before he retires. I would love to see it. When you're looking at the underage, there isn't the same golden crop that the 2012 kind of era signaled. There is some really good players though, like David Purcell coming through for Kilmuckle Crokes is probably the main one that I'm looking forward to. Sean Gallagher from Nave Barogue is a fabulous wing back as well. Like there is real potential. Diarmuid Dooling as well from Commercials has potential superstar written all over him. So looking forward to it. Reading out the results then, which took place down the division. So just to run through these, the Division 2 in hurling was down 219, Kildare 22 points, Meath 212, Donegal 114, and Derry 113, Tyrone 14 points. In Division 3, Wicklow beat Sligo 116 to 28, London beat Roscommon 115 to 110, and Mayo versus Cavan was postponed. And then Division 4 was Longford 414, Warwickshire 311, Lancashire 210, Leitrim 21 points, and Louth 218 from Mana 112. And we've got one more code to run through. We're just going to run through just like we did with the football lower divisions and the hurling, the LGFA divisions, starting with Division 1. We have, of course, Armagh 311, Kerry 113. Away in Kerry, big win for Armagh there. Dublin beating Mayo 2-7 to 1-7 in Parnell Park. Waterford going away to Kildare and winning 112 to 2-7. And a pretty weird scoreline here. Meath 4-4, Tyrone 2 points in Newtown Stewart. So victories for Meath, for Waterford, for Dublin, and for Armagh. I think the obvious one that jumps out is Armagh going away to the champions and winning.
And there, yeah, not an easy place to go.
Yeah, no, big time.
They were Armagh. They're 2-2 now. I think they are in the.
Yeah, no, like the league champions last season, a rematch of the league final, and especially the second goal was a superb team move. And you're looking at, especially last season, because last season I did an interview with Caroline O'Hanlon for Balls of the E at the time. And basically, I think Caroline was saying that she's been playing with Armagh since 2004, which is nuts. But she was saying last season that it was the best Armagh team she'd ever played on. And then Amy Mackin got injured. And I think if you look at how good she is, if she was still there, you could argue that it might have been a double potential for Armagh. And if she's back, this actually could be their year.
Yeah, it's some household, isn't it, with the Mackins there? Down in Conlock, I was big to Kieran from time to time. Same photographs of him constantly putting up. When he put a t-shirt on, there's abs on top of abs, like, the voice is some sort of neck. But I think I always be interested. Like, seeing me were by, she's away playing the AFL, but wants to come home, despite the risk that come with it. Obviously they're probably getting a few quid, earning a living from it. The risk coming back and playing Gaelic football, but she does it. She does it. Just the family love it. And what an athlete that she is.
Oh, big time. And like Blaheen, Amy, Lauren McConville, like they're all over there. Amy Mulholland as well is over there, and they all come back to play. Like they are determined.
But you said 2004. I mean, I know
she plays netball as well for UK, I think it is, or some sort of thing like that. Like she's just an absolutely insane athlete.
Yeah.
Johnny Barrett here says Kerry ladies can write off this year. The two managers, Declan Quill and Long, gone. Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. Like you've seen at the All Stars as well. Like they had such a good bond with the team. It would be difficult to replicate that bond with a new manager coming in, and then obviously Louise Niebuhr-Hertig, who's a generational player stepping away. It would be difficult to just plug those holes next year. And I look at Armagh and I'm like, they've been on an upward trajectory now for years, and they're hungry and they want it so bad. And when I look at Kerry, that they wanted that All Ireland for so bad, they got it. Sometimes you can dip a bit in terms of your hunger the following year. So right now, I'd probably put Armagh as my favourites, with Kerry and Dublin as close second or third. I don't really mind the rating as of right now. Running through then from 2 to 4. In Division 2, we had Cork beating Westmeath 3-12 to 5 points. Galway beating Tipperary 2-9 to 7 points. Monaghan pipping Roscommon by 7 points to 6. And Clare and Donegal drawing 1-4 to 7 points. In Division 3, Cavan beat Louth 2-10 to 2-8. Wexford beat Offaly 3-14 to 1-4. And Down beat Limerick 14 points to 2-6, while Laois versus Carlow was postponed. And then finally in Division 4 with round 2, Fermanagh battered Derry 4-16 to 4 points. It gets worse. Longford annihilated Kilkenny 6-24 to 3 points. Cue out the stop, they're already dead meme. Antrim 5-7, Sligo 2-8, while Wicklow Leitrim was postponed. Leitrim being down in Division 4 is bonkers when you consider that they are going to play senior championship when it comes around. I mean, that would be a very difficult task to navigate. But we've come to the end of the episode, Kevin. Just before we go, if I could just get your highlight of the weekend.
There'd be no surprise. You just think that photograph of Conor Loftus after the game. I think that's probably not only the highlight of the weekend. It's probably going to be living long in the memory for it this year. And fair play to him. Tough few weeks.
Big time. And I like the respect I have for him, for his team, and for Ballinderry as well. Because look, that was a debatable penalty. If we're being honest, the Colai Day was a debatable penalty, and it's just like they're not really going mad about it. And again, as you said, there's bigger things here, and there's bigger things than just.
And even thing about Conor Loftus with, he was the one who was pushing for this game to go ahead. He didn't want Ballinderry to be the forgotten team, or he was thinking about them as well. So it just shows you the character of that fella. You know, he wanted this game to be pushed ahead and go and played. There was no asking or request for it to be pushed back any further than what it is. So fair play to both. Like that's it. The cup's way home to Mayo now. Maybe it's a change in the waters for a Mayo team winning All Ireland. You never know now. But good luck to both teams next year, and hopefully bigger and better things for them in the step up.
Yeah, certainly. It'd be good to see Cross back at the senior level, obviously like littered in Mayo legends like Kieran MacDonald and the like. So good to see them back at the senior grade. But anyway, that is the bumper opening weekend of the Allianz Leagues recapped. Kevin, thank you very much for jumping on. Thank you as well to anybody who commented. Sean O'Malley, Johnny Barrett, Liam White. Obviously that name, I'm still not going to try to say it. NIRB and TSB. Maybe it's trying to catch me out, something like one of those things. Anyway, guys, we'll be back for a weekend preview Wednesday evening. It could potentially be Thursday evening, but the updates will come on the Cluiche story, so stay tuned for that. But until the next one, guys, on Cluiche, have a good week and take care.
Cheers.